Hey, Karen, how's it going? We're live.
Tickety boo.
Hello, everyone on Facebook land. It's Deb Rock Evans from Rock the Boat, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Karen Creighton from, Vitality Health. But she's also, the founder of The Ultimate Detox and Fast Life and numerous amazing offerings and programs to help us all with health and wellness. Yes. Welcome, Karen, because I really put you in the deep end by saying, hey, do you just want to go live this afternoon and let's have a little chat about this whole carnivore diet thing? And you just said, yeah, great, let's do it in an hour.
You know me, I can talk the hind legs of a donkey around this stuff, so it's absolutely fine.
I know. And look, and in full transparency, I've been feeling really bad because I've been wanting to share about your carnivore challenge that you've got starting. Well, it just started this week, didn't it? And I've been wanting to, share the love really, because I've been following you and your programs for several years now. I started out on Fast Track and lost over a stone of weight that I hadn't been able to shift for the majority of my life. I was a real skinny rake in my late teens, but then just, put on weight and never have been able to shift it through my 20s and 30s. And when I did Fast Track, I finally did, which was it's an amazing, clean eating, whole food based program, isn't it? And then a few years later, it kind of crept on again, and I thought I've got to do something else. And that's when I jumped on your Ultimate Detox, which is an amazing program. And I've been blessed and honored to to create your branding and the membership site for that program. So that's an incredible program too. And it's a 12-week journey that I've enjoyed. And again, I've lost another 12 kgs, I'd say, easily. And we've been friends for a number of years now. And certainly since I've been up here in Northland, we've been hanging out a lot. And so we're good biz buddies, aren't we, Karen?
Oh, we are. It's been such a wonderful journey. And, it's been great having people like yourself, Deb, on the Ultimate Detox. Actually, I think you were in my first group, weren't you? The very first group who were my trial. And so that was in June 2022. And the reason that came about was because I was getting clients in late 2021, early 2022 who were actually very sick for various different reasons, from the medical procedure and also from the stress of what was going on in the world. And so consequently, I decided to create the Ultimate Detox as a ramped up version of Ultimate Detox, of Fast Track to Health. And so that's how Ultimate Detox came about. And then with Ultimate Detox, we've got two options of either doing the low inflammatory food, which is what Fast Track's all about. And then we also incorporated fasting with broths or water, or doing the carnivore diet. And the reason for that, of course, is because of my journey with food. And so the reason Fast Track came about in 2010 was because of my journey with my weight, with my health. And it's a long story. But basically, 2010, I hit the jackpot with my program. And so basically, I lost 25 kilos very quickly. And people were going, I want to do what you're doing. And so that's how Fast Track evolved. And then basically I realized that we needed to ramp up everything. But sort of, I think it must have been about 2018, a client came to see me and said, Karen, have you heard of the carnivore diet? And I went, no, what does that mean? she'd said it's just eating animal products. And for those of you who don't know me, my previous existence was 20 years of vegetarian, and 5 years of that was vegan. And in 1999, I basically started eating meat, and I basically started feeling much better.
But not just meat. You just brought meat back into your diet.
I just brought meat back in. I mean, it would have been a bit of a hard ask, I think, going from vegan through to being a carnivore. But so basically, it's been quite a journey. But in 2020, after doing a lot of research, I put myself on the carnivore diet for a month in January 2020. And boy, I felt good. I couldn't believe it. And I actually slipped into it really easily, because a lot of people say to me now is, how can I eat without vegetables and without fruit? And I just go, easily, actually. It really is quite an easy transition once you get your head around it. And I had given myself a bit of time to get my head around it. And so anyway, what happened in 2020, no one needs to be told. But, you know, life came on, and basically, like many of us, I went back on a healthy-ish diet, but except for a little bit too much red wine. And but it also, you know, 2020 gave me time to do a lot more researching and really dive into the carnivore. And so I think it was October. Yeah, it was about October 2020. I jumped on the carnivore for life. Well, not for life, but whenever I basically haven't looked back.
Wow. So we're coming up 4 years later on this year.
Yeah. So
wow.
I have had fruit. I have had apples. I don't really like much other fruit. But basically, I haven't really eaten any vegetables or anything since then. And I wouldn't say I'm never going to have them, because I never do that. But I just haven't felt like I needed to, you know. So, and the health benefits have been great. I mean, I didn't have bad health anyway, but I have noticed that when I'm stressed, I used to crave potato crisps, or chips, as you call them here. Or potato crisps was my go-to, the salty, crunchy, you know. And basically, since being on carnivore, I haven't craved anything.
Right. Wow.
And that has been the biggest bonus, because throughout my whole life, I've gone towards potato crisps when I'm under stress, or basically it was a go-to food at times. And so it's a really huge shift for me. And I have had one or two crisps, but then I just went, oh, what was that all about? You know, oh, I didn't really enjoy that. And whereas before, I couldn't just have one or two crisps. So, I mean, obviously, I have other foods that I have as sort of snack foods, as treat foods. You know, we have, when we do sort of like a carnivore feast, we have various different things. So, yeah, and that's fun.
Karen has a question for you. How long does it take for those cravings to pass when you've started on a carnivore diet? Do you know? Because you've taken quite a few people through this now, so you might get that feedback.
It does depend on whereabouts we are as humans, in how old. Our age makes a big difference, you know, if we're menopausal, for example, if we're right in the middle of being perimenopausal, because of our hormonal things. So the latter part of our cycle can be a bit of a challenge, because when we have more progesterone going through, which is towards when we have our period, we have a lot more progesterone, and progesterone really likes sugar, which is why we crave sugars and things. However, if you start a program like the carnivore, when you're in so the ideal time would be the day after your period to start it, because that's when estrogen really kicks in, and estrogen actually really enjoys us fasting. So doing intermittent fasting, the estrogen really enjoys that. So if you do that, then you're much less likely to get the cravings towards the end of your period time, and so that's the ideal time to start it. However, it's not always an ideal time to start something, but there's various different things that you can do to stop those cravings, making sure you're eating enough, and that's the most important. Make sure you're eating enough.
Yeah. Okay.
And
What about, isn't it bad though for us not to be eating fruit and vegetables? I mean, we've been sort of raised, with the food pyramid and everything, to think that that's really up there. We should be having a lot of fruit and veggies, right? Surely.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trained in nutrition, on vegan, vegetarian nutrition. So that's what we were taught. And so it's taken a bit of time to really get my head around it. But the most nutritious food on the planet is liver. It has nearly every single nutrient that we need is in liver.
Wow.
And so you have, and also, in meat, you've got all your B vitamins, you've got vitamin A in the oils, and you've got everything in there, despite what we've been taught. And we actually need the fats that we get from meat to fire up our metabolism, to help with everything to function, especially brain health. So if we look at the neurons of the brain, it's mostly fat. So when we reduce the levels of fat in our diet, especially animal fat, we're actually knocking our ability to think clearly, to have a clear head, to actually cope with stress in a mental level. So
I was actually watching a video last night or today about the fact that our brain is something like 75% cholesterol.
Yeah.
Which
absolutely.
And that's the thing that all these years they've been telling us to cut that down.
Yeah, cut cholesterol.
Down.
Well, the biggest problem we have with the cholesterol myth, and it is a bit of a myth, but there's half truth in there. So, we're told HDLs are good for us and LDLs are bad for us. Well, LDLs, yes, but there's two types of LDLs. And when they do the blood tests, they don't differentiate. So the LDLs, so basically the good ones for us are the light and fluffy LDLs that are basically the messengers that go to our brain. And then we have the little bullet type LDLs, which are the ones that can clog the arteries. And those come from polyunsaturated fat. So that's vegetable oils and those sorts of things. And so consequently, if you have a high cholesterol test when you've been doing the carnivore diet, it could be that you've got more messengers going to the brain. And so consequently, your brain health is going to be far, far better, as we go on in life. And I know that my brain is much better now than when I was in my late teens. I can retain knowledge a lot longer. I can think clearly. I also don't get affected by stress as much as I used to either. So, there's so many different things.
Well, that brings us on to this question, really. We in the introduction of this, we were sort of talking about what's with all the hype with carnivore right now. I mean, there's always some fad on, right? But it really does seem like, there's the keto thing, but a lot of people are going that whole extra step and fully carnivore. So what are the main benefits of doing that over and above these other sort of programs like paleo and keto, which seem to be quite, low carb and really eating whole foods? And what's the benefits of going carnivore? Yeah.
Well, the main benefit is that animal foods that come from animal are the least inflammatory of all food. There are a few in there which can be inflammatory, like dairy, for example, for some, and also sometimes pork, depending on, and sometimes, farmed fish and stuff like that, but it's very minute. And if you look at all dis-ease is caused by inflammation. By reducing down the inflammatory markers in our body, it enables the body to have the opportunity to remove that inflammation, but also remove any dis-ease processes. So the reason this is so popular is because people are letting go of their diagnosis.
Wow.
Okay. So that's the most important thing, I think, is people who have had a diagnosis of things like autoimmune diseases and even cancers and things. And what they're finding is by doing the carnivore, and let's face it, it's so simple, they are actually able to get their health back, which they weren't able to do before. And I've had clients who have been diagnosed with autoimmune diseases and they've had it for a long time, and they go on a program like I did, with vegan and stuff, and expecting to get results. And I know when I was doing the vegan thing, I mean, the reason I went into natural health is because I had chronic fatigue. And I did get much better, even on a vegetarian diet. But when I went vegan, I felt myself slipping into, and I felt, even though I was doing everything right, I felt I wasn't doing enough. So I went on a raw vegan diet,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I know so many people who have done exactly the same. And then many actually have gone from a vegan diet into a carnivore diet and felt the difference really, really quickly. But when you're that sick, you do anything. And I think, when we're not feeling good in our bodies, and then after quite a short period of time, you start feeling the difference, that makes you much more, motivated to keep going. And I think that's the most important thing is basically most people find their brain fog goes, they have more energy, they have more stamina too. So basically you can keep going for longer. And their ailments start to fall away, the aches and pains that they've had for years, the headaches and all of that. They don't always go overnight because it takes a bit of time for the body to process, and there is detox reactions that can come about. So, the thing which for many is probably the oxalate detoxification. So oxalates are basically little crystals that come from things like kale and spinach and cruciferous vegetables, broccolis, and
are really good for us.
Yeah. And what they can do is create little crystals and little stones, and then they become quite problematic. So things like arthritis, even kidney stones, and even thyroid issues, and all sorts. It can clog up the arteries, all sorts. So oxalates.
Oxalates, aren't they also what causes gout?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you have those sort of things, and your body needs to eliminate, when you take yourself off of those foods, what can happen is the body goes, yippee, we can get rid of these, and then it can be quite profound. It can be quite painful at times. If anyone's ever had kidney stones or anything like that, you can tell how painful that can be when the body releases them. So there's certain things that I get clients to do when they're on the carnivore diet to help negate the symptoms and the actual detoxification of those stones. And that can take years to release. And it's like built up sugars in the body as well. They can take a long time to release too. But if you do it in a strategic way, and I think doing it strategically is probably the most important thing to do, really.
Right. Okay. So with with meat, I mean, there seems to be a real hate campaign for dairy. Like a lot of people are really anti-dairy. But you did mention that that can be a bit inflammatory. I know that I've got a slight dairy intolerance that stuffs up my sinus. But also people are, you do still hear this narrative about red meat and how that's bad to have too much red meat and stuff. And then there's the whole saturated fat thing that many of us have been conditioned into for years to avoid. So, I mean, what about all the saturated fat with meat? Isn't that supposed to be bad for us?
Oh, it is supposed to be bad for us. But that's a narrative that's actually from very skewed science. So the skewed science started with a researcher called Ansel Keys, who basically cherry-picked data that actually real scientists have actually been bringing out real research to say this isn't true. Saturated fat isn't bad for us, but the real science has been buried underneath the narrative of, and when I look at it, really, when I first started in natural health, and when they started bringing out the cholesterol tests, which was about 1989, 90 in the UK, the markers for cholesterol, for high cholesterol, was anything over 7.8. And now there's something like 3 point something. But no research has been done. So when you look at the narrative, and this is a question we have to pose, I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, but this is the way my brain works, is have we been sold down this Swanee to sell us drugs, to get us onto drugs, to get us onto different things?
Yeah.
And when we look at the sales of food, well, you can't really call it food. When you go into the supermarket, you go down the aisles. This is what I do anyway. Go down the aisles, and most of it is not food. Most of it is full of junk, and no wonder we're getting sicker and sicker in the Western world.
You got to go outside. You got to go around the outside of the supermarket, don't you? That's where all the whole food generally is. Around the outer walls, and all the aisles in between are pretty much full of chemicals, sugar, preservatives, just rubbish. Really.
So, unfortunately, now we used to say, go around the sort of outer, but now I've noticed over the last, I don't know how many years it has been, but even alcohol now is on the outer edge.
So's the bakeries, and that's true.
Yeah. So basically it tends to be I don't go shopping very often. My husband does that. But from what I can observe is the butchers and the fishmongers tends to be right down the back. So go straight to the back of the thing. So because I mean it does take a while to get your head around this. But boy, once you do, it's not only healthy, it's easy to cook. I mean, I put dinner in the oven at 1. It's brisket tonight. And so basically it's slow cooking. And by the time we're ready for it, no matter what time it is, it'll be deliciously yummy. And also I'll have enough left for lunch tomorrow. And so And what I've noticed is that basically it doesn't take me any time at all to cook or shopping,
Oh no, that's
And
great.
and people say, "Oh, look, it's too expensive," but when you look
Cut
at
out.
it,
It's not.
it's really not, because a the yes, meat in theory is more expensive, but you need so much less.
Mm.
You really don't get hungry. And so, I get clients onto intermittent fasting. So basically recommend a window of sort of like from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. But most of the time, you don't get hungry till about 1 or 2.
Mm.
And so it's 2
That's
meals a day.
yeah, definitely
And
safe.
yeah. And like today, I had leftover meatloaf that we had last night. And it really does make a huge, huge difference to how we feel about food.
Mm.
And I find that food doesn't control me at all anymore, because, I get asked, what are you having for dinner? I'm going, I don't know. It doesn't matter, I'll find something,
Yeah.
But we have to get stuff out of the freezer and all that. But basically, it doesn't rule me anymore. And I know
No.
for me, food's a big, big part of, their day. And so
Yeah.
it's so freeing. You just feel free for, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you eat a lot,
Less. Karen Johnson's saying she eats so much less as well. So
yeah,
you don't. One slice, big chunk of meat will satiate you. Not big even. Just they. I mean, they always used to say, didn't they, about the palm of your hand. Now,
yeah.
as a carnivore, do you eat maybe a bit more than that now, or you just eat what you like, right? Because you don't even worry about the calories or anything, do you?
Some days I do, some days I don't. I think, it depends on what you've done the days before, or the days, if you go out and do more, you tend to get a bit hungrier, or really. And this is what I say. People say, well, how much should I eat? Well, eat until you're satiated. So when you're on the carnivore program, of course, is because you're having fat, that saves you. The butter,
Yeah.
beef tallow, and all of those sorts of yummy things. You don't get hungry because you haven't got this blood sugars going up and down, which often is the hunger. So you have your blood sugars going up and down like that. And so consequently, you tend to go, oh, do I need to eat? And sometimes, like dinner time, I just go, I don't need anything, just don't.
Yeah.
Just have a cup of tea, And so
So the fat as well, is that because I know that some people might be concerned. I know my mother, for example, would be concerned about doesn't the meat clog you up? Don't you get constipated eating too much meat?
that is the biggest question I get asked.
Is that right? Yeah.
The interesting thing is being as my past as a practitioner, I was also a colonic irrigation therapist. And the reason I went into that was because I had a history of constipation and gut issues and bloating and all of that sort of stuff. And I get asked this all the time. Well, how do you keep your bowels going? And there's a couple of reasons why you don't need to worry about it. The first off is we don't need fiber like we've been told we need fiber to get our bowels going. So the theory is that because we have so much variety of different foods going in, a wheat bran, and I know there's a chemical in wheat germ oil that's really decadent anyway. But basically, you've got all the bran, you've got all your rices, you've got all your vegetables and everything, which is huge amounts of fiber. And so what that does is it pushes the waste through your bowels, so you have a bowel motion. And that's why you need a bowel motion every day at least, because you have so much waste.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas when you look at the carnivore diet, what happens is very often you don't have a bowel motion every day, but you don't feel uncomfortable with it. You don't feel bloated with it. And that's mainly because we have a very long, small intestine, which is where we absorb our nutrients from. So consequently, it's going through the small intestine and the body is absorbing most what we've eaten. So consequently, there's a lot less waste.
Right. Yep.
So
In a way, what you're saying here is that we get more nutrients from just eating the meat than we would if we had a balanced diet, what they call a balanced diet.
absolutely we do. Absolutely.
Because fibrous foods are pushing it through.
Yeah, pushing it through. And also, many people who get irritable bowel, for example, with diarrhea, if you look at diarrhea and constipation, they're the same. Because constipation is basically the body getting blocked up, but diarrhea is where the body's just throwing stuff through and not absorbing properly. So they're sort of like completely different, but they're the same really. So if you have a good carnivore diet, then you will not have a problem with constipation. Very often when people first go on the carnivore diet is they get diarrhea, believe it or not.
Right, okay.
The reason for that is because very often when people first start, they'll have a lot of fat. And basically what the theory is that when we're on a carnivore diet, as in you're basically in ketosis, so you're using fat as energy, what the body will do is it'll absorb the amount of fat that you need to fire up everything, but any leftover, it'll just leave it as waste products and it goes straight through. Which is why when people do get concerned about not having a bowel motion, I say, right, just eat some more fat. And that's the reason.
Okay.
So the other thing about the having a lot of fiber is it naturally pushes through. And so we have an action which is called peristalsis in the gut. And basically it's like it's sort of like a bellows. It sort of goes like this and it pushes everything through. When we have a lot of fiber, that peristalsis gets lazy because it's the job's being done for it. There's so much bulk that it just comes through anyway. And so consequently, you don't have to worry about that. And so when you do have a lot of diarrhea, it could be that you might have lost a bit of bowel tone. And gradually, after a few weeks or months, it'll gradually work out and diarrhea will go. I know for a few people, didn't happen to me, they have to be quite close to the toilet when they start.
Well, what about people with the opposite problem? Would you recommend someone who suffers from constipation to start the carnivore diet?
Yeah. Add more fat. I've got a few solutions for people who do get bloated and things. There's a couple of ways of doing it quickly. So, but it's sort of like, it really is just a side issue, Really.
Yeah. Okay. And Karen, how can you, I know a lot of people considering it will really struggle to get their head around just looking at the dinner plate and there's just meat there.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, it took a while for me to get my head around it, but you really do start to look at that piece of steak with the butter dripping all over it, like, oh, you're just so excited to get stuck into it that, you don't really miss all the other colour around on the plate. But is that another thing that comes up a lot with people when they're considering it or talking to you? Is it a big deal for people?
Not really, no. I think, it is literally, okay, let's give it, I think most people, if you feel attracted to it, if you think, oh, I want to give this a go, most people go, right, okay, well, I'll just have 2 different proteins on my plate. So, for example, you can do an omelette, or you can, you don't have all the pretty stuff that go alongside it, but basically, having 2 different proteins is a good way of doing it. So you might have bacon and eggs, for example. Bacon and eggs is a carnivore food. You can get sausages and things which are just totally meat. There's chicken. You can have chicken, and then maybe you can have fish with it. Surf and turf, and that's what I did when I first started. So when I first started it, all those years ago, I used to take to work with me beef sandwiches. And so you go, well, how can you have beef sandwiches? Well, basically, we used to cook, say, a rump roast, and I used to cut slices of the rump, and then I used to put butter in the middle and maybe some cheese sometimes, and take my beef sandwiches to work. And you can also use pate. You can get pate and put it in the middle. And there's lots of different ways of doing it, and we've got quite a few recipes that we've gradually been creating. So we've got like a pizza recipe, we've got biscuit recipes, we've got all sorts of things that you don't think until you do it how easy it is. Making a carnivore pizza, as you know, Deb, is the easiest pizza you will ever have, and it will be probably the best pizza you will ever have.
Yeah,
and so
it really is. And I have a nearly 10-year-old son who absolutely adores it. And my son no longer eats bread, and I'm amazed, that any kid, to be honest, can go without bread. And it's amazing. And things like that pizza is what's been a lifesaver, really, because he loves it. It's so satiating, and it's got cheese in it, so it's even more cheesy pizza. It's tastes better than real pizza. It's one of my go-tos.
I mean, I haven't had a real pizza since 1990. So I've had gluten-free pizzas occasionally, but not since I've been on this program. But the carnivore pizza, I've got a 30-year-old son who absolutely loves our carnivore pizza, and he's always been a pizza lover. So consequently, there are ways of doing different things, and I think that's the fun bit. That's the fun. It's actually making it fun rather than a chore. And like chicken skins are absolutely delicious, and all of those things.
Oh my god! I'm doing now. They are divine. They're like, if anyone likes pork scratchings, they're like even better than pork scratchings. Oh, I love the chicken skins. And,
they don't break your teeth.
No, they don't. And I love the chicken crackers too. Like just chicken mince and some spices maybe, and salt and pepper, and it's just that you cook them till they're crunchy and have them with cheese or whatever pate. Oh, what? They're beautiful. So I don't feel like we missed out at all.
Yeah, I feel that I've gained so much in so many ways, and I suppose it's very hard to describe. Going on a process like this, it's very hard to describe the benefits, and people don't believe it until they try it. And I think that's it, really, which is why I've sort of did the 30-day carnivore detox, because yes, we're focusing on carnivore, but we're also going to go into the detoxification processes and things, and so that's going to be such fun doing that.
Yeah, great. So look, tell us a bit more about that, Karen. I've just popped that in here. I didn't have the word detox. I'd forgotten about that. So we started this week. Is it too late for people to join if they want to give this a try?
No, I'm closing the doors though. It's Thursday today, so I'm closing the doors tonight at midnight. So if anyone wants to join, then join now. because the reason I'm shutting the doors is because as a group, what I've learned over the years with these groups is if we close the doors to the group, then it becomes quite a tight-knit community, and we can share, and everyone, it's a sense of belonging, and I think that's the most important component of it. And so basically that's why I'm stopping it, because I want everyone to feel safe to share what they're feeling, how they're feeling, if they've got any problems or anything, they feel safe to share it. And I think that is the most important component of it, really. So health issues and all that.
Leanne said she's going to join. She needs these recipes. That's a good reason to join. Just for the recipes. Yeah. No, do it, Leanne, honestly. And I can vouch for the fact that Karen just gives away so much gold on all of her challenges that she does. And many of them are free. This one you're actually charging for, aren't you, Karen? You're valuing your worth and your... Yeah, and it's also a sign of commitment, I think. People are going to stick it out for the 30 days and really give this a good go.
Yeah.
But I can vouch for the fact that Karen just gives away so much. She's just a wealth of knowledge, and you're going to learn so much on the 30 days. So tell us a little bit about what it looks like. We join a group, do some Zooms, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so join the group. We're sharing recipes all the time.
Yeah,
I've shared a few, and I've got loads, so I'll be sharing them all the time. We've got a booklet for you to follow. There's 3 options of carnivore. So depending on what you're wanting to achieve, the 3 options are: option 1 is eat anything that comes from an animal. So it includes, white meat, red meat, fish, eggs, dairy, butter. So that's basically, if you just want to give it a go, you haven't got any specific goals that you want to achieve, you might want to drop a few kilos or whatever. Option 2 is basically the same as option 1, except for we exclude dairy, except for butter, we allow butter, and pork. And the reason for that is some people find them inflammatory. And then option 3, so that option is really for people who are not sure if they're dairy intolerant or if they have a food intolerance or really want to get faster weight loss results and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then option 3 is the really strict carnivore. And basically it's beef, eggs, butter.
Yeah. This is the one I said I would do. Yeah. But I haven't quite started it yet.
The reason for this is that most people who are doing this, their weight might be stuck. They might be wanting to shift the last few kilos. They might be wanting to let go of autoimmune diseases and all sorts of arthritis, all of those things. And they really can set you on a really, really good start to attaining better health. So, and what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to hold you to, like you've said, Deb, you're going to be on the option 3. I'm not going to hold you to that because it's your body. These are just options of what you can do. And so I've committed to do the strict one only because I've done it for, I think the longest time I've done just beef and eggs is for a week and a half. And so I'm going to see what it feels like because I'm joining everyone. So I think, it's important for me as a practitioner to be able to say, I've done that and I felt this. And anyone who knows me will know that I never get you to do something I haven't done myself. And
Karen's a big walking experiment, aren't you?
I am. I've been my biggest experiment, and I've tested everything. So I've gone, as I say, from vegetarian, vegan, colonic irrigation, fasting, juice fasting, water fasting, broth fasting, So I know what it feels like. All right, I can't be in your shoes. I don't know how you're going to be feeling, but I do know what it can benefit. And so that's what I think. So that's the fun bit of it, really.
So Leanne's saying, let us know how to join. So I'll pop that link up, but we'll also pop it in the comments. So I don't think I can do that from here. But it is here. This is the shop. So Karen's website is vitalityhealth.co.nz. And if you visit and if you visit her shop there, and there should be one for the Carnivore 30-day detox experience. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, I can't comment. It won't let me comment. Sorry, guys.
And so you've got quite a few people doing it, Karen? There's quite a few people ringing.
I think we've got, at the moment, 33 in the group, I think.
It's great.
It's growing.
Yeah.
So I didn't anticipate it being a huge group, but it's a great group. It's a really good size. More than area.
Yeah, fantastic. And if people are joining today, they're only a few days behind, and doesn't matter.
So I'm doing 2 live Zooms a week.
Wow. Great.
So Mondays, I can't remember the time. I think it was Monday at noon, and Fridays at 5.
Okay.
Now the reason I chose those is because Mondays to motivate everyone, get everyone motivated.
Yeah.
And Fridays to help any questions that you've got for going over the weekend, because often people go, oh, what am I going to do if I have a social event, that sort of thing. So, so they're going to be recorded. They're going to go into the group. And so if you can't manage those, then you can watch the recording. And if you do have questions that you want me to cover, then basically just message me or message in the group, and I will cover.
Yep, no, it's wonderful. And likewise for this, if you're watching the replay, or if you've got any questions now while we're still live, although we'll probably wrap it up in a minute because it's getting close to tea time anyway. Have you cooked me a brisket today, Karen?
I have. It's been in the oven since 1:45.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it should be absolutely beautiful by the time.
We'll be picking it up and bringing it home. So that's the one thing I really I'm a bit gutted about, because our oven in the galley here on the boat is pretty appalling, and to cook something for 6 or 8 hours, we're going to go through nearly a tank of gas doing that. So I appreciate you cooking my dinner. Thanks, Jerry.
Well, I've got a brisket too, so it happens to have 2 briskets cooking. I'll just make sure that you get the right one. Yeah.
Yes, please. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for telling us a bit about that. I can't wait to go and share this interview with my mum, because I really think she'd really benefit from it. There's a question for you, actually. Is it okay for older people to do this? It's not going to upset their systems too much. Is it safe for them?
It's never too late to remove inflammation. The youngest client I've had on this process has been 11. And apart from Morgan, of course, but he hasn't done the complete carnivore. But actually complete carnivore has been 11. And the oldest was 94. So
wow. Yeah. And so was the 94-year-old doing it for health reasons, to try and clear?
Was.
And was the out?
Yeah. Doing so well.
That's great. Okay.
So she joined me early 2022. This was before the Ultimate Detox, and so she joined the carnivore thing, and she did fast track with carnivore, and gosh, she's let go of all her arthritic pain. She's let go of, and she looks amazing. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. If you've enjoyed this stream, this live stream, thanks for coming live. If you catch the replay, if you've been thinking about carnivore, jump on board, give it a crack. You've got nothing to lose. And if you've other people that you've been talking to about this who you think might be interested, it's a great way to get started with one of Karen's programs. She really looks after us. So, yeah. Thanks,
Awesome.
Karen. Yeah,
Thank
great.
you very much, Jen. This has been fun. Great way to spend an hour.
Good, isn't it, live stream? Yeah, we'll have to do another one sometime.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Okay.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Well, bye.